that's why we're here. Prayer is important. Prayer is powerful. And yes, prayer still changes things.
Yes.
And I'm excited about our next guest today, Daniel and Jessica King from Tulsa, Oklahoma. They are missionaries to the world. And he's written a book entitled The Secret of, and some people call this Obed-edom, and some people call it Obed-edom. And only the Lord knows for sure how you pronounce it, but it's a great story in the Bible that a lot of people don't know about. We've heard about the prayer of Jabez and that blessing. Well, the secret of Obed-edom, and we're going to talk to Daniel and Jessica about that. Well, let's
thank you for having us. It's wonderful to be here.
Bless you guys.
Thank you.
And, all right, so let me tell you about this guy. So his parents were missionaries, especially for many years to Mexico. He was called to preach when he was 5 and actually began to preach at 6. And I thought I was young starting at 15, but 6, I can't imagine what kind of preacher I'd be at 6. Do you remember what you preached about your first time?
I was an evangelist even back when I was 6 years old. One of the things that I said, and we still have the recording, I told the people, if you are saved, then stay saved. If you aren't saved, then get saved.
That's a pretty good message.
That is a good message. That'll preach.
All right. All right, we've got a roll in that tells you more about the book. Let's go to that right now.
Obed-edom began his life as a slave, an enemy, an outcast. Then one day he discovered a secret that raised him from obscurity to prominence, a secret that turned his poverty into unimaginable wealth. And now the greatest undiscovered story in all the Bible is about to change your life forever. In his new book, Daniel King, international missionary evangelist, speaker, author, and Bible teacher, reveals the secret of Obed-edom and how you can begin moving towards promotion today. The book is available online at kingministries.com or amazon.com, or ask for it in bookstores everywhere.
All right, so who in the world was Obed-edom for our viewers who may not have ever heard of him?
Well, I wrote this book, The Secret of Obed-edom. I like to call it the greatest undiscovered story in the Bible. Hardly anyone has ever heard of this Bible character, but I believe that his story will change your story. In the beginning of his life, Obed-edom was a nobody. He simply lived beside the road which led to Jerusalem. One day, King David decided to bring the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. Now, in Old Testament times, the Ark of the Covenant was where the literal presence of God dwelt. And so they were celebrating and dancing, and then a tragedy happened. A man died, and King David said, the party's over. He said, forget about taking the Ark to Jerusalem. Just take it and place it in that house right over there. And he pointed to the house of this man named Obed-edom. And so they carried the ark and they placed it in Obed-edom's living room. And the Bible says in 1 Chronicles chapter 13, verses 13 and 14, it says, King David did not take the ark to be with him in the city of David. Instead, he took it aside to the house of Obed-edom of Gath. And the ark remained with Obed-edom in his house for 3 months. And God blessed his household and everything he had. Everything he had was just absolutely blessed. His marriage was blessed. His family was blessed. His children were blessed. His crops were blessed. His business deals were blessed. God blessed Obed-edom and everything he had. And it all began when the presence of God came to dwell in his house.
That was a happy day.
Absolutely.
When the Ark of the Covenant came to visit his house.
And God will do the same for you. When you invite God's presence into your house, then you can expect the blessing of God to come upon your life.
And that's what the Ark of the Covenant represented, was the presence of God.
Absolutely.
So Jessica, what kind of feedback have you heard from people that have read the book?
Oh, they just love the book. Most of all, they look at the life of Obed-edom and they think, you know, that's a picture of my life. I came from maybe a different background, you know, or I had struggled maybe with schooling or different things in my life. But, you know, when the presence of God comes into my life, I have been changed and transformed. And that's what the power of Jesus does.
We don't know very much about Obed-edom's history, but we do find some clues in the meaning of his name. His first name, Obed, means servant or slave. so he's known as a slave. Edom means he was an Edomite. He was descended from Esau, the brother of Jacob. And so historically, the Israelites and the Edomites were enemies. They were always fighting. And then the Bible tells us he was from the city of Gath. And of course, David's greatest enemy, Goliath the giant, was from the city of Gath. And so this man has 3 strikes against him. But it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what your background is like. When God's presence comes to dwell in your house, then get ready because you're going to be blessed.
I'm going to preach this. Do I have your permission to preach this?
Absolutely.
Let's shake on it. All right.
I think people all over the world need to preach this.
On that. All right. Now, how do people do that? I mean, they can't go out and get the little ark and bring it into their house. So what can they do?
Well, in Old Testament times, the presence of God dwelled in the ark. But today, you can invite God's presence into your house by making Jesus the Lord of your life. And maybe you're watching right now and you've never done it. I encourage you right now to cry out to Jesus. The Bible says every person who calls on Jesus shall be saved from their sins. So just call on Jesus right now. And when you do that, God's presence will come into your house and then God's blessing will begin to come. Now, Obed-edom's story is not finished yet. After 3 months, King David heard about how blessed Obed-edom was. He said, we need the entire nation to be blessed. And so he brought the ark the rest of the way to Jerusalem. And Obed-edom's story could have ended there, but guess what? It's not finished yet. Obed-edom is mentioned 7 more times throughout the Bible. And each time that he's mentioned, he's been promoted. So in 1 Chronicles chapter 15, it says that Obed-edom became a gatekeeper in the house of God. Because God had blessed his house, he decided to be a blessing to God's house. I believe the success of your house and the success of God's house are intertwined. They work together.
That's good.
As your house is blessed, you're enabled to be a blessing to God's house.
That's
Let me
just
tell
like
you,
what Pastor Bill Winston was talking about, the kings and the priests working together.
Yeah. And so Obed-edom, he became a gatekeeper. And I think he was the best gatekeeper they had. Every morning he was the first one to arrive, and he'd open up those big temple gates.